Right? Fine. So previously we were analyzing the convolution of the parallel patterns. So convolution was one of the such an operation where a pattern can be analyzed. As you have seen with respect to the example, whatever it was showcased, the computation, yes, because you have devices or the CUDA computations, every thread computes one output element at a given point of time, and number of output elements you want to produce. So whenever there's a huge tile or one dimension or number of elements are huge, so basically you are having that mask or tiling kind of concept, where you divide the inputs into say basically how many outputs I want to produce with respect to the input tiles as such, and there was a windowing or tiling concepts. Apart from this, computation orientation, and there was a one more logic that evolved was the elements used for computation were almost static during the execution, which was a major advantageous whenever you consider an operation something like convolution. Otherwise, in normal parallel computations, it is not necessary that whatever you are computing or the whatever the memory accesses you are making are okay, not changed during the process of the execution flow as such. So, and the inter-process communications of the processor one requires some data from processor to something of that sort, or they manipulate the same data, exclusive ownership. All that circus is not there in this scenario because neither the input is changing nor the what is it masks used for the transfer function or the HFM, whatever you can call them. So that is changing. So both are static, and hence you can store them in a constant memory. So the next option is why and how to store memory. Disable update mode concept. Okay, then. So while tiling, when we state that they have to be cached or the data required for computation should be much freely available for them with a lesser time to access, and hence as far as possible we see the memory architecture of a GPU. So there were three levels for that matter, something similar to your general computer architecture. So primary memory, that is your RAM, then the cache, and finally register. Similar to that, you see the registers will be there in every because there are processors and there will be registers. After that, you have a concept of threads within a block. So anything required by the block is stored in the what is that shared memory. So which also requires out something similar to your cache, and the other one was a constant memory. So in the runtime of the whenever the things or symbols or symbolic memory for the matter is they are not changing or something are very static, then you put onto them as a constant memory. What to put in a constant memory and what to put in a shared memory, it's then that can be addressed by whatever data is required across blocks. Something is common across blocks whenever you are dividing in terms of hierarchy, so across blocks, so then stored in a constant memory. So most of the input you can put in a constant memory, or a mask is common that can be put in a constant memory. And whenever you are going for a computation, certain set of data which is relevant or required only for that set of threads, then it can put into the shared memory concept or shared memory for that particular thread whatever is running. So again thread or that bulk of threads or batch of threads, so because you block you are running. So shared memory is with respect to blocks, constant memory is with respect to constant memory is across blocks. Whenever you start visualizing that memory hierarchical memory architecture, that should come to your mind. Then somewhere in the previous slides, also much before convolution, the matrix multiplication, there was a term called as stencil diagram. Stencil diagram is how do you compute basically. If I say this, I'm having a low pass filter for my image, and these are my elements. So most oftenly you average all the elements, so 9 elements average, and that is going to sit as a new value over this place. So all the 9 elements divided by, you find out the average of 9 elements, and then this is the new value. Or there is some computation, this center point or whatever is visible, so the odd color is computed involving this 4 plus 1, 5 elements. So he is giving a function names for that matter. There are basically how do you compute current element with respect to neighbors. So even in your convolution, we are saying that there was a sliding window kind of a window, so or mask with which you are multiplying and then accumulating or reducing that into a single element, something of that sort. So that is what is meant by stencil algorithm. So there is a certain kind of patterns. So you are sliding it across whatever the computations you want to make with respect to, if I say image, it's a DCT or FFT means smaller mask that is running all over. So including your ghost, halo elements, whatever you can think of later part. So we are not considering boundary conditions as such. But this is a mask which is running all over and to produce the output elements as such. Okay, that is basically strength. Yes, there were three strategies for that. Code was also stated, or how do you write a code was discussed in the last chapter. Again, you can go back strategy 1 and alternate strategy and strategy 3. Say that's how three strategies were of these three strategies were replicated. So, to remember, or whenever I said you have to recollect the diagram, so this is the diagram of the basic intention with which the algorithms have been written. So one is output tile or tile width. So this is your output tile width, and the other one is input tile width, and the third one, the third parameter is your mask width. So basically, with which you operate. So I want to produce output tile using input tiles and mask width, or say mask, whatever the mask is available for that matter. In the strategy, one block covers the entire output tile. So because the size of the output tile is limited, so it's already visible that it is covering multiple steps to load input tile. So that means you want to access left halo elements and then right halo elements and then load the inputs and go for computation. That's how the code 1 was depicted in the lecture 8. If you can recollect again, you can go back. So please go back and read it. Then the strategy 2, or say alternate strategy, in the slide it is have been written strategy, alternate strategy, and then rarely jumps on to strategy 3. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದಾಗ, so he loads the entire input at once and including all the halo and other stuffs, and these computations may be performed and the later results can be discarded, or you are not going for computation of these stuffs. So whatever the outside width of tile width of output elements as such. So block size covers the input tile, load input tile, one step, turn off sum of the reds when calculating the output. So you are left out with basically what he's trying to. So there is some divergence whenever you are checking these conditions or boundary conditions. So left halo elements, then load the inputs, and right halo elements. There also some decision making is there, and here. So everywhere there is a decision making. So even here in the strategy 3, so he wants to access in through the global memory, and somewhere in how it is different from strategy 1 and strategy 3, we start looking to that aspects, basically coalescing of the memory elements, so that iteration 1 loads the central elements and iteration 2 loads the say left and right halo elements and so on. So that can be visualized, or has to be visualized. Something you are speaking from the global memory access, and then there were for all the three there were advantages and disadvantages which can be directly asked for as direct questions. What are the advantages of strategy 1, strategy 2? So they speak about you can load it entire thing at once, but the computations are discarded, so but you have consumed the power for that. So in this case you are going for a global memory, so loading is fine. So whatever is relevant you are loading. So whatever, whenever you say that I'm loading from a global memory access, global memory access consumes time, plus whenever you are accessing from global memory there is a block size, say whatever the tile width you have chosen. Apart from that, so there is a burst that has to be loaded from global memory to the shared memory or constant memory, whatever that has to be loaded. So if that is normally that is smaller, or number of elements, if I consider 8 elements, so only 2 elements of the, so I will come to that example again. Additional 2 elements or radius elements in Bartha, so that are to be loaded. They are very minimal for that matter. But maybe if I say that I have to load 128 bytes, or whenever you are loading from global memory, least recently used byte, or the 3, you are loading in terms of some blocks or exchange currency. So, fine. So then that makes your stuff infeasible. It is because of that burst of the identification that is not directly visible. whenever you just visualize only 2 bytes and that has to be loaded. Fine. Previously, we had an example of output tile width also 4 and input tile width is 4. So now we have 8 output tile width, but the mask width is retained as it is. So in lecture 8, whenever you want to recollect that, so output tile width was 8 elements. So totally output tile width is 4. So mask width was still 5 minus 1, mask width minus 1. So 4 plus 4 were 8 elements. Now in this particular slide, the output tile width he is considering is P is our output tile width, M is input, say what is mask tile width or mask width, N is the number of input elements. So whatever he has written as tile, so normally it was written as N, and if this is what is being considered, this is NDS, something of that sort. Notation was noted for that. Fine. So whenever you want to compute this particular computations, you have to load 12 memory elements. So why 12 memory elements? So these are the radius elements which has to be loaded. 8 plus say left and right. So that's what is accounts for 12 elements or 12 memory loads for a computation. So what are the number of computations? So maybe you are computing, say, CGMA, computation versus global memory access. Whenever you are doing that ratio, so that's how we compute our performance can be analyzed. That's what we are doing in this particular slide as such. Okay. So he is considering mask width 5. So whenever you start with this P8 used in computation, or the computation of P8 uses N6, N7, N8, N9. N10. So because mask width is 5, so 5 elements are being used, and then P9 uses and so on. Ultimately what he is trying to do is minimum 5 elements are being used for the computation. So 8 into 5, because you have to compute 8 output elements, or the tile width of output tile is 8. 8 into 5 values are repeatedly used for the outputs, so that is 14 memory access. Tiling benefits. So what are the benefits of tilings? So 8 plus 5 minus 1. So output tile width, mask width minus 1. So that's how the total number of elements that are to be loaded. So unique elements of input array n are to be loaded. So that is 12. 8 into 5 global memory access. So if you are not accessing or not storing them in a shared memory or constant memory for that matter, then for every element you have to go to the global memory. So you are reducing that 8 into 5 global memory access potentially replaced by shared memory access. So what is the bandwidth reduction that has happened, or the efficiency we have increased? So there were 40 accesses, now they are reduced by 12. So anyway, if you have loaded, so the bandwidth enhancement is, or the bandwidth reduction is by 3.3. So this is load tile width plus mask width minus 1 elements from global memory to shared memory. Replace so many of global memory access tile 8 and say 5, mask width is 5, 8 into 5 is 40, and this is 8 plus 5 minus 1, say 12. So that's where 3.3 came into existence. Now he is showcasing that entire array of that Gaussian kind of utilization of the elements whatever are being loaded. So tile 10 is used by all the, whenever you consider that these elements are used. So there is an increase in the usage of elements. So P8 started increasing 2 times, P8 3 times, 4 times, and so on. So the number of elements, so they go on increasing to the center level. Then there is a stagnation with respect to highest number of utilizations, 5x in this case. So after that again there is a decrease. So 6, 7, 8, 9 ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ increase ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ. Say after 13 again it is going in a decreasing usage of that elements used for computations. So these elements are used so many times. That's what is depicted over there. So ghost copy 1 plus 2 plus 3 4 until here it is going on increasing, and then there is a repetitive usage of those elements. Say 5 into 8 minus 1, So this is the center zone, this zone of computations. And then there is a reduction, say 4 plus 3 plus 2 1. So overall there are 40 accesses. 12 elements again. Say what you have done. So there are 12 elements that are computed. 40 by 12, or memory bandwidth is reduced by 3. So it's another way to look into the reuse aspect as such. I want to go for a numeric analysis or stenciling kind of aspect, so that before arriving at these formulas, so tile size, mask width, I just want to go with a different approach and justify my aspect of 3.3, the reduction in the memory access. Yes. What is the boundary conditions? So basically, you are not using this. Maybe for only one computation you are using this. So maybe the first tile at the beginning or at the end you are using it. So less than 8 into 5 elements of n are used for the output tile. So not exactly 40 elements. So there is a reduction in the number of elements that are being used, and hence it has become 12 into 10 and so on. So 40 becomes somewhere 38, 37. So overall reduction in the memory state is not 3.3, it has actually 3.7 accesses. So there's a reduction due to the ghost elements in the change ratios. Other than that, if you consider or you want to make it generalized, be happy with the 3.3 kind of stuff. So I want to make my computations more nearer to the exactness. So the halo elements or ghost elements, whatever we are visualizing, even though I say halo elements, they are overlapped across tiles. But whenever you are loading, how do you load, or the algorithm makes a difference as such, right? So in general, the total number of global memory accesses to the tile width, again elements input and replaced by shared memory accesses, and this is again is generalizing this formula 1 plus 2 plus 3, whatever was showcased, the same stuff. Now once you do this n into n plus 1, so the computations, so ultimately it ends up in mask width into tile width. So it is some kind of empirical derivation as such. So you make it, then generalize it, so derive that formula for that. So bandwidth reduction with respect to tile size and mask width. So this is a formula we have adopted, and what is the best tile width we can accommodate, or what is the best output element? See, if I say that I have a huge 1D dimensional data for that matter. Whether right now we have considered the output tile width is 12 as such. If it is 16, so it is 4. If it is 32, then the memory reduction is much larger, say 4.4. If it is 64, that means the more you consider, the more gain. So I am just considering with respect to tile width or output tile width. So mask width is same. So tile width is increasing. Say with respect to mask width 5, I am just observing this RF data as such. It is increasing 4.0, 4.4, 4.7, 4.9. So then it is somewhere becoming static or stagnated, even with 9 as a mask width. So it is somewhere stagnating. So you can just go ahead with respect to a few more numbers, or if you are doing some simulations, then can you justify, or whether it's a linear improvement, or say square, log, whatever the kind of scaling that is happening with respect to the output tile width. The other option is, so tile width, you keep one of them as a tile width, say 16, then I go ahead with respect to increasing the mask width as such. Instead of 5, we have a 9. So center elements, 4 elements left and right. So then the improvement with respect to the memory bandwidth is, so the reduction to the memory bandwidth, whatever the global memory access is reduced by 6. So again, it is increasing for that matter. Whenever you increase both of them, say tile width is basically whether you increase tile width or you increase mask width, in both the scenarios, the results are positive. In that sense, you are going on reducing the memory elements. What is the con, or the, if I want to make an argument opposite to it, is it really feasible for you? Because we are neglecting the part how much shared memory is available with respect to any CUDA device under considerations. So whenever you start considering, so then there is a limitation with which you can have a number of blocks, because that is what is shared. Block ಅಂದ ತಕ್ಷಣ, so so many threads are sharing some memory location. So whatever is shared across that particular block and how many threads can access that, and relevant data has to be stored in the shared memory. So now that memory constraints comes to picture. Constant memory again, the same concept, because there will be very much common data whenever you move across blocks as such. So in this case, convolution it is there. So if it is there, again there is a limitation with respect to convolution aspect, or the how many blocks can be created, and with respect to how much data can be shared across with respect to constant memory 64K or whatever the size will be there. Then these numbers so you have to adjust so that that fits in the CUDA get device properties parameters as such. So threads in a particular dimension, then blocks in numbers, how many blocks that can be accommodated. Then you plan ahead accordingly what can be stored as a shared memory and constant memory as such. So as we have stated, again through parallelization of a tile load. So tile size or output. So your input is scanning across. So you are covering that additional computations also. Now the output tile is 8 cross 8 is your tile, or the computations or mask tile is 5 5. ಇದು 8 ಇದೆ, ಇದು ಮೂರೇಳು. So 5 cross 5 is your mask width, and 8 cross 8 is your output width, and total inputs whatever that has to be loaded is, so 144 elements are needed to load at once. Each output requires minimum that 5 square 5, so that mask number of elements 25 input elements. Overall, how many memory access? 1600 global memory access for computing output tile are converted into shared memory accesses. And yes, so mask width is whatever the you have computed, say mask in the mask into tile width divided by the total number of accesses, similar to that divided by 12 kind of concept. So 1600 by 144, somewhere you have enhanced it by 11 times. Not enhancement means the reduction in the global memory accesses, okay, are reduced by 11 times. So in general, again generalization with respect to two-dimensional matrix. So previously we had a convolution with only one dimension. Now we have a tile plus mask width -1, the same concept, but now there's a square that is appearing because of that square matrix whatever we have considered, loaded from n into shared memory. Calculation of each p elements needs to load mask widths, or the 25 5 square how it has come. So you just observe that tile width square and into mask width square global memory accesses. So how that 1066, with 1006 has been evolved, and this final computation 1600 divided by 144 whatever has been showcased. Again the same stuff. What is a feasible rank of matrices that has to be considered whenever you look across with respect to constant mask width? So then there is improvement in the what is it, reduction in the memory bandwidth, or the less reading from global memory. And yes, even with the mask width 9, that is true. For that matter, it has enhanced more. And whenever you look across mask width also, both are enhancing the reduction in memory or global memory access. So that what is happening is, so you choose a optimum. So basically you go on increasing somewhere as stated in a previous one dimensional stuff. So 4.9 4.9, so 128 to 256 there is no improvement, so somewhere that has to stagnate, and later part it has to degrade. So there's some kind of bell curve that has to appear, at least approximately for this 2D convolution he has stated 22.1. so if you can explore that, you are welcome. Otherwise the behavior is same. So both the enhancement in the tile width or enhancement in the mask width enhances the number of elements loaded onto the shared memory, constant memory more, and hence lesser lesser global memory access set and more computation. That's how CGMA, or the computation versus global memory access or ratio, can be enhanced. Okay. Yes, 2D calculation for enjoyment and loop. So for untied convolution, and now he wants to prove that they're efficient already, which is proven with respect to say 3.3, 3.7, 11.1, some so many reductions that have happened with respect to tiled convolutions. So untiled convolution will have that, so they will have more memory access for that matter. So compute full use of compute requires 13.3.3x reuse. Again, from which slide he has shared it, I don't know, but just so because these are the computations you want to perform, and without operands you cannot compute. So 75 gigaflops of operations, or 7.50% of the peak. So whenever you have this, then you can say that reuse makes full use of computer resources. So if you are reusing that, you can enhance the performance by 13.3%. So either you compute this first, or you have the ratios. So what you want to achieve? So I want to have the reusage with respect to 13.3. I am just speaking without reference to any functionality as such. Functionality ತೊಂದರೆ there will be restrictions, and then some things I cannot blindly say that. So I want to reusage is parallelization engineers aim as such, but ultimately parallelizer, whoever the engineer he is writing the code, he is working for certain functionality, and there is some limitations with respect to that application as such. So everything cannot be parallelized. So if there is a scope, then this is the maximum parallelization he can achieve, right? So again, one more stuff. It's 2 bytes for operands, or 2 operands are required for that matter. And whenever you have that 1.92% of peak performance, or if I have 52.1x of usage of the resources, then so much of 1.92 peak performance can be achieved. So again, what is stated is whenever you increase mask width, the computation or the your okay, a reduction in the global memory accesses, and hence things are becoming much faster. But ultimately, what we are missing is what is the size of the global memory, or say shared memory and constant memory, that are available with respect to devices. Okay, once we have that, we can say that that is more realistic numbers for that matter. Okay, food for thought. Just where we want to close this class today. Each thread loads 4B shared memory 2048 only 8 KB. That's what again he's boiling down to how much is available with respect to whatever the GPU you are coding for. So probably till now we are aiming at only one GPU machines, or like multiple GPU on the now, So we are not targeting at that. Most oftenly, whenever I imagine learning or teaching this, is basically there is one host machine and there is one GPU card with just like a 20 or quarter 6,000, something of that sort is there. And we are not imagining multiple. Say there can be possibilities of having multiple GPU cards onto the same PC, and that's not the case as of now. So right now, with a single GPU, or how much memory can be shared, or what is the size of that shared memory, and texture memory, or constant memory, whatever you can think of, is available with respect to particular CUDA devices. And then once you have that numbers, again recollect or rerun the slides with those numbers, or if you are coding for that, so plan accordingly. So that finishes my today's class as such. Any doubts? Please let me know. So just run through. No doubts. So you can even